What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to show you the smart way to buy a Quiver of snowboards. Let's check this out. So if you're not sure what a Quiver of snowboards is, it's basically having all these different snowboards for doing all these different things. And when it comes down to it, snowboards can be a little expensive. And when you're buying a Quiver of snowboards, obviously we all want to have a ton of different boards just because it's super fun. There's nothing I like myself more than going out and testing new boards and trying new boards out, because a lot of the boards do have little different characteristics that do make them ride a specific way and let them feel a specific way. And they're all good in their own little ways. But when it comes down to it, not all of us can afford to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boards in their Quiver. And when you are buying boards for those specific riding styles, there's a way to buy very, very smart right off the bat, so you're not dropping thousands and thousands of dollars just to try to have a board that's going to work for every condition. So when you're first starting out and you're looking at snowboards, there's obviously a bunch of different riding styles. We've got park style, you got your all mountain, you got your free ride, you got your powder. But when it comes down to it, you really only need to have a couple boards. If you can have more than that, awesome. If you get a POW board, it's going to work the best for powder. If you get a park board, it's going to work the best for park. But sometimes you need to have boards that are going to overlap and are going to kind of cover a few of those different riding styles. So kind of as we look through this stack of boards here, we have a park board, a board that's going to rule in the park. We also have a park board that's a little bit more of a higher end park board, and higher end park boards work really, really well as an all mountain board. And then from there, we get into a full on all mountain board, a board that's kind of meant for doing everything. You can ride it in the park, you can ride it in the POW, you can ride it everywhere in between. It's kind of that jack of all trades. It's not going to excel super, super well in one place on the mountain, but it's going to ride really, really well every place on the mountain. And then from there, we get into our free ride boards. I like this Burton Hometown Hero, where this thing actually does work pretty good as an all mountain board. You're probably not going to be riding it in the park, not that you couldn't ride it in the park, but it's going to excel riding more in one direction, and it's going to be very, very good for those high speed runs and cranking turns and starting to get into the powder. And then you start looking at boards that have super, super big wide noses, very, very short tails, sometimes a swallowtail, and are definitely going to excel in the powder, and they might be more on the free ride side of things, or they might be a full-on POW board. So most of us, when we start off on an all mountain board, something that's a little bit more geared towards riding everywhere. Ride in the park, ride in the POW, starting to really figure out what your riding style is. Now from there, when we're going into buying a Quiver of snowboards, you want to buy smart so you're not having to buy all 5 of these boards. Obviously, if you can afford to have all 5 of these boards, go for it, more power to you. Sometimes you might want to ride one board one day, another board the other day, and you just have little different feelings, but not a lot of us can afford that, so you want to buy smarter. So let's say we've got your all mountain board. Great board to ride. If you're not sure what the conditions are, you just want to go cruise the hill, cruise the resort, that's what that all mountain board is going to do best. But let's say you're going out and you know it's going to be a park day, or maybe you're riding a smaller resort and you just want to have that super fun, easy feel. Now, when you go to buy the board and you're looking at, let's say, these 2 different park boards here, go for the full-on park board. Don't go for this high-end park board. This is something, obviously, it's nice, and you say, oh, high-end park board, great. But you're actually buying a board that's really, really close to the board you already have. These 2 boards are very, very similar. This one might be just a little bit softer and be a little less aggressive from edge to edge. But on those full-on park days when you're not hitting the super big jumps, you want to have something that's a little bit further away from what you're already riding. Usually when you're hitting those smaller jumps and smaller rails and features and you're just tooling around, you want a little bit softer, easier feeling board anyway. And that's where you want to go full-on park board. Don't get something that's going to kind of blur the lines between park and all mountain. Likewise, as we start to go towards the free ride side of things, if we look at a board that's kind of a good all mountain, go anywhere, do anything board, maybe not for riding the park, that's going to be a little bit closer to your all mountain board already. Go for something that's a little bit closer to the powder side of things, something with a little bit bigger nose, a little bit smaller tail, something that you can actually ride in the powder a little bit better and is going to excel in the powder. So when you get to that point, you're gonna have that extra float, you're gonna have that extra feel. Something that's going to still ride the groomers, but again, more towards POW. Now, when you're looking at some of the other boards, let's say you've already got this all mountain park board. Well, here's where you can literally go, I don't need an all mountain board. I want something a little bit more on the free ride side of things. You can actually have a board that's going to excel in the powder, a little bit more of that free ride board. And then you're gonna have that park board that's going to be a little bit more towards all mountain. And that way you're covering everywhere from park to powder with just 2 boards. Just like when we talked about having this all mountain board, well, we're gonna cover park to powder just by having 3 boards and not having to own all 5. Now, obviously this depends on what you already have, what you wanna do, but when you are looking to expand that quiver of snowboards, buy wisely. Don't buy boards that are too close to what you've already got. And you're gonna end up saving yourself some money in the long run. As you grow and you progress as a rider, you might actually develop into one riding style more than another. As we're getting older and maybe we're not riding park as much and we're starting to free ride more, well, you might wanna start expanding your quiver, but you might get rid of one of your boards and start going more towards the free ride side of things. Or if you're a beginner rider and you're really developing those park skills and you're saying to yourself, I just want to ride park all the time, well, you might be getting rid of this all mountain board and going more towards those park boards. So as you can see, if you buy smarter, you can get a small lineup of boards that's going to ride from park to powder, everywhere in between, and you're gonna have a board that's gonna excel in each of those conditions too, without having to own thousands and thousands of dollars worth of snowboards. But if you got any questions around what we talked about in this video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer those questions. We wanna make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we wanna make sure that it's gonna fit you and it's gonna fit your riding style. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. And head on over to peterglenn.com, check out the wider range of boards we have, and start building up that quiver to make sure that you've got a board for any type of riding, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.